Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. If you can hear me clearly, can you just signify? Good afternoon, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah,
Go
okay,
ahead.
welcome. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So we're going to start straight up because I don't want us to use more than 1 hour, max 1 hour 30 minutes. We'll be looking at network security. That's to do with firewalls, and we'll get straight into Fortigate session. And I'll show us around. And I have a home lab here that Fortigate is set up, so I'll use that as demonstration of different scenarios and components of Fortigate firewalls and what is most important that you should look out for. And I think I will just remove this waiting room so anybody can just join as they come in. Okay, so welcome. Please, if you haven't followed me yet on any of this platform, YouTube or Facebook, kindly follow me on Cyberpoint, and we enjoy all the rest. So let me just share my screen. I'll start with this. 1 minute. Okay. Can you see my screen? Okay. So we'll be talking about firewalls, like I mentioned the other time. Just 1 hour expository sessions, and um, the outline of the session will have to do with we have to we'll do an introduction, type of firewalls, FortiGate firewalls, and the future of firewalls, which is the next generation firewall, and we'll look into the demo and all that. Let me check the YouTube. So, like we all know, firewalls actually control, the flow of network traffic, and they act as a gate between two networks, whether internal networks, external network, and we have another zone called DMZ zone. So the major functionality of a firewall is to filter traffic, check the packets, and ensure that a network is protected. You can set up firewall in any organization. So far there's a network in that place, or a group of people, a group of computer or devices that needs to access maybe internet resources and external resources, and any other resources that is safe for the users, and in that environment. Firewalls can also act as gateways, VPN gateways. We've seen a lot of users, staffs, and organizations having the model of their users working from home or working from anywhere, and they need to tunnel back to the head office or to the data center to have access to maybe internal resources and all that. And to be able to secure their, internal communications, we've seen a lot of deployment of firewalls at the edge of, the network of enterprise network, and the servers, VPN gateways for both, IPsec VPNs or remote access VPN, depending on what the enterprise or the people are looking out for. And the major another aspect of firewall is also content filtering. I'll show us different types of firewalls and what most organizations, most especially enterprises, are using now, that has evolved into. Firewalls has evolved over the years, and we've seen different shapes and different types of firewalls emerged. And currently, we have one major firewall that is being used, which is the type of next generation firewall. Organizations are also moving to firewall as a service, which is in the cloud as well. But We'll touch base on all that as well. So looking at the DMZ, which is the demilitarized zone, that has to do with hosting public servers. We've seen a lot of protections of servers in that zone using firewall device to protect such assets. And public facing servers are very important to businesses and organizations. And one of the ways to protect those the traffic going to those zones, which are most especially detached from the internal networks and all that, is to ensure that a proper well-configured firewall is placed there so that attackers won't have access to those data without just anyhow they want. So we've talked about VPN. VPN is one of the most secured communication secured network links that remote users or users that are not within the same network at which they need to access the data they need to access in. VPN has always been one of the most secure link to access those resources and data. And also, VPN is also constructed on top of existing network medias and all that. We have different types of VPN, regardless of the types of VPN that your organizations or anyone might want to leverage on. Firewalls will be able to control that as well. Then we have types of firewalls. We have majorly different types of firewalls. We have packet filters firewalls. We have circuit level firewall. We have the application level, stateful level, multi-layer firewall. We have the next generation firewall as well. We have a cloud firewall, which has different aspects. If we want to look into the cloud, there are ones that you can host on cloud infrastructures. There are ones you have to consume as a service and all that. So the involvement of firewalls has began with a packet filtering firewall, which means that this kind of firewall just filters inbound and outbound packets, and it's able to even work to the level of layer 3 on the OSI model. Each packet is always compared with a set of criteria before it's forwarded and all that. And I've not seen for a while, I've not seen an organization that's only based their protection of their network on only packet filter kind of firewall. Technology has moved past packet filtering, which means that it has, based on this packet filtering as well, is also included in the latest type of firewall, which is the next generation firewall. So the basic functionality of packet firewall is to be able to monitor both incoming and outgoing traffic, most especially on layer 3, and also it's also packets and traffic is also being filtered based on specific rules, which has to include source and destination, IP addresses, packet type, ports, and all that. So we have the circuit level. I don't want to waste much time here because I want us to dive into the demo as well. We have application level gateways, which has to do with the proxies. Most organizations also I've seen a lot of enterprises implement proxies as firewalls. What they only want to allow over the communication channel is just maybe HTTP and HTTPS traffic alone, and that's what they're looking at. And the proxy only function at application level, which is layer 7. So we've seen that in the past, and it's also currently being used across board in the enterprise level. So we also look at stateful multi-layer firewall, which has to do with inspection firewalls that combine the aspect of other 3 types of firewall. The stateful firewall, one of the ways Firewall is able to ensure that the same traffic that goes out, for instance, if you try to visit a site with your IP address, and you send that traffic as to maybe Facebook or Google or any other site out there. For the firewall to be able to recognize and be able to respond back based on what you sent out in that communication channel without, having to, recreate another session for you, is what makes it stateful. State firewall ensures that the same source and destination that is being sent, the packet that is being sent, is being monitored and is being returned in the same session without having to create a new session for it. So most of the firewall we've seen or I've worked with are always stateful. So you don't have to worry about opening another for the firewall to get another sessions of that same traffic to return back to the source. So we've seen that for both incoming and outgoing, the state firewall works till the application level as well. So the next generation firewall is the type of firewall that is modern, and it combines almost the other types of firewall into itself to give a robust solution for enterprises and firewall. And it also embed in itself what we know as UTM, which is Unified Threat Management. The main reason why you can filter traffic, you can also, firewall will be able to scan for maybe malwares, antivirus, and all that, do a level of intrusion prevention system, do a level of application control, is because that firewall is a next generation firewall. And the firewall will be able to scan viruses based on network level and be able to, stop some level of exploits if there is anything going on within the network, is because of the intelligence that has been introduced into a firewall that makes it a next generation firewall. So coming into Fortigate firewall, and one of the things I would always say to people is that firewall systems across different vendors, they sometimes work in a similar way. Definitely, because firewall is a firewall regardless of the vendor you're using. It's just that more there are some firewalls that you use that are more simplified, that you can be able to relate with. There are some that you work with that there are some more components on it than the others. So if you can operate one firewall very well, it is very certain to an extent that you can be able to work with other firewalls the same way. So on the Fortigate firewall comprises of different components. Is a next generation firewall that converges both networking and security into its platform. We have the FortiOS is the operating system that operates the firewall. And if you look at this slide, we have different things, different components, different segments that that functions on the same. So coming to security aspect of it, that has to do with the UTM features, application control. So it has capability for application control, antivirus, IPS, intrusion prevention, botnet, URL filtering, IoT, OT, IPAM, security rating and inspection, and SSL inspection, which has to do with deep packet inspection on that level. The same Fortigate device also has the routing capability, most especially the advanced routing, which has to do with BGP, OSPF, RIP, and all that. And it also has in its component SD-WAN functionality. So is a fully developed solution that can be able to protect organizations from advanced threats and all that. And we'll look into the Fortigate device, the architecture. I have one home lab Fortigate device here that work with, so that we can see how it works. In case you have any question, just raise up your hand and I would unmute you to talk. So let me just switch back to the Fortigate device on my hand, just talk about it one after the other. But before I go, let's look at the enterprise architecture. There is no network. I'm saying it now. There is no network or enterprise that you're working that there is no firewall device. Firewall is able to. The firewall devices are able to, protect traffic from different networks, and is able to segment network for organizations, and for the mitigation of cyber threats, cyber attacks, exploit, advanced threat protections. Those are things you're looking out to protect. So you're looking out to also ensure that the users within the network are also not being exploited. They are also visiting sites that that are compromised, so that they won't also compromise the network within behind the firewall and all that. So we look at all the components of that, and we'll move on. So in case you have any question, kindly let me know. Okay, so going to the firewall that I have here. 1 minute, let me just bring it up. So one of the things, when you have access to a new Fortigate firewall, one of the things you want to do is to register it. Before registering, you want to set it up, which has to do with the initial configuration. 1 minute. It has to do with the initial configuration. So the initial configuration, the default IP address comes as 192.168.1.99, but you can change it afterwards and give it a name. Then we have logging into this. So here we have the dashboard. So looking at this dashboard, we can have a lot of information on this. So we have the host name, the serial number, the firmware, system uptime, and all that. So the dashboard gives you an insight into the state of the firewall. So we have the licenses. We know whether the Fortigate device is licensed or not based on the state of the FortiGuard the FortiGuard license status that you have on the screen here. So here, this gives a whole lot of information and all that. But one of the things you want to do is to have the initial configuration. So in the initial configuration, we have different segments on the file on the Fortigate device. We have the dashboard segment, the network segment. So under the network segment, we have interfaces, setting up of the interfaces, DNS, IPAM, extenders, and all that. I'll touch base on this one after the other. If you stay to the end of this class or session, I'll show you where you can have a free training on Fortigate device. You have a free training, self-paced free training on Fortigate device. And if you want to do the exam, you have to buy the voucher for the exam as well. But you can have a free training on Fortigate, like a well self-expository Fortigate session training, self-paced training on that and all that. So we have interfaces. On these interfaces, this shows, if you look at this shows like the physical representation of the Fortigate device in terms of the port numbers that are there. If you look at this, we have this Fortigate 81E. Fortigate 81E is one of the more small model of Fortigate device that you can have for SMBs and small organizations. So we have port 1 to port 11, port 12. Yeah, that means this particular device has 12 ports that we can use, and it has two one port, which can be used for internet facing links and all that. So yeah, FortiGate device can operate in three modes. It can operate in a NAT mode, it can operate in a transparent mode, and can also operate in a virtual area mode. A NAT mode would means that you can set up FortiGate device, and each of these ports would represent a network. If you're familiar with your IP addressing and all that, you know that a network contains subnets, IP addresses, and subnets, and the subnet mask determines the network of maybe the devices you're putting in there and all that. So each of these interfaces in the NAT mode represent network. So this interface 1, which is port 5, the LAN interface port 5 here, will have its own IP address, and this is a network on itself. And this port will serve as a gateway to any device or that will be connecting to that. So this port can be connected to a switch, and the switch will be able to now distribute the IP addresses within that network to devices you are connecting it to. That's the basic LAN, local area network terminology. So each of these can have IP address and their network. So you can see that there are different IP addresses on each of these ports, depending on what you want to assign to each of those ports. So that's in NAT mode. But in transparent mode, it means that the FortiGate can actually act as a switch, in quotes, as a switch. It means that you can combine all these ports into one, and they will just be in a network, and you can use and the FortiGates would be in the flow of the traffic, be able to inspect traffic going in and out. You can also implement antivirus, IPS profiles and all that. So we also have the virtual wire mode and all that. So looking at this NAT mode, configuring each of these interfaces will just mean that you can put them in zones. So let's take this as for an example. So on this device, we have port 3 and port 2 that are connected. So port 2 is our local LAN, which is, so looking at this, the role here, you can set up the interface. This is LAN interface. So the LAN interface, by choosing LAN, you are telling FortiGate that you want this port to serve as a LAN interface, which means that your users within your environment or within the network will connect to this interface as probably their gateway to be able to reach other network or browse to the internet. So you can set up the mode of acquiring an IP address. It can be a manual DHCP, auto managed by PAM or PoE. So what I've seen most people do is either they have addressing mode as manual or DHCP. If you have a DHCP setup in an environment, maybe you have a DHCP server as Windows server or something else, you can use DHCP. You can also assign IP address manually here and all that. So assigning the IP address manually, you can also ensure that administrative access is granted to the device, to the FortiGate device, through these protocols. We have HTTPS, HTTP. HTTP is not secure, so I would disable HTTP. We have pinging. If you enable pinging or if you disable pinging, that means that if you try to access this FortiGate device on this interface with IP address 192.168.1.100, you won't be able to ping it. You won't know whether it's up or not. So you always leave pinging on. And HTTP access means that you can easily access this device on this interface via HTTPS. which is this. So that means that you can grant administrative access to the device using HTTPS. Another every other protocol here have what it has what they do. So for instance, FMG access means there's what we call FortiManager, which is used to manage multiple FortiGates at the same time. You can push configurations, policies at the same time to different FortiGate devices in different locations using FortiManager. This protocol gives that access to give that privilege to be able to integrate FortiManager with the FortiGate device. We have Radius accounting. If you are setting up Radius server and you want some level of accounting, you enable Radius. If you want to access this FortiGate using SSH as well, you are going to also do that. So we have receiving LLDP and CDP. If you are familiar with Cisco, you know what is called CCDP, to be able to recognize devices that are connected, or your neighboring devices and all that. So this ensures that FortiGate is able to recognize neighboring devices that are connected in it. So you can set up DHCP server with this interface. So don't forget that this interface, which is port 2, is a gateway in a NAT mode on Fortigate. So it can also serve as a DHCP server to be able to give, IP addresses, automatically give IP addresses to the connecting client on that particular network. So you can set up DHCP server using 192.168. Depending on the range you want to allow and all that. So there are other things you can do. So you can also say detect device detection. It means that if this is enabled, any device that is connected within this network to this interface, FortiGate will be able to recognize the MAC address of those devices and can be able to tell you the kind of device they are, whether they are IP phones, whether they are Cisco device, whether they are mobile phone or PC that is connected. This can also ensure that they have that level of visibility to that. So we have security mode. If you are concerned about, implementing and enforcing captive portal, you can also set this up on security mode and all that. So that has to do with everything that has to do with interfaces and setting up your ports for the LAN. So when you set this up for the LAN, you just connect it to your switch, and your switch gives IP address to the device that will be connected to it. Then we have looking at port 3. Port 3 would serve as your WAN interface. Your WAN interface is where you connect your ISP link to ISPs like MTN, cyberspace, and main one and all that. So that your device can be able to have access to the internet. You set up your IP address the way you set up the first one. If you it's always not advisable on the ISP side, on the one side, to give administrative access based on HTTPS and SSH. Why? Because your public IP address is the IP address you'll be inserting here is a public IP address. That means it is routable over the internet. It is detectable over the internet. So an attacker can get hold of your public IP address and launch an attack on the Fortigate device and have access maybe via HTTPS or SSH. So it's always advisable to disable HTTPS and SSH on a one port interface. Then after that, you just click OK and you're done. So looking at this setup, one of the things you want to also enable on and be sure of is to do your static routes. Also doing static routes. I've disabled. Okay, 1 minute. I've disabled HTTPS 11 dots. 11. I disabled the HTTP administrative access. I mean, okay, that's 100. Okay. Can you see me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. Yeah, we can hear
Okay,
you.
1 minute. Yeah. I disabled the HTTPS access. I've forgotten that that's what I'm using to access the device. What do I do? Okay. So another thing, so you can still see my screen, right? Okay.
Yes,
I'll
we can
just
see your
connect.
screen.
Yes, I'll connect to the console cable, to the console of the Fortigate device, and 1 minute. Let me come. So I'm connecting to the console of, so I lost administrative access because I disabled the HTTPS on that interface I was using. So what I want to do now is to log into the Fortigate device. So there is a console cable. The console ports, each Fortigate device has their own console ports. So you just use your console cable, then connect to it. Connect to be able to have access to the CLI port using PuTTY. So 1 minute, let me bring up. So you go to device manager. So this is how to connect to the console cable. Can you see the Fortigate device? So this is the Fortigate device, and this is the console cable. Connect to it once, then connect the other end to your system. Click OK. So when you come to ports, so we have COM9 as the serial port. So you open up your PuTTY, so come to serial. So the device I connected now is COM9. So leaving all other setup as default, you select serial, then open. Once you open up, you would see the device come up. So it asked me for login. So admin. Yeah, so now we've entered the serial, what's it called? The CLI, the CLI of the device. Now, what I want to enable back is the HTTPS that I disabled mistakenly the other time. So what I would do is to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have config system interface. So show. So the config system interface, I would drop some links to where you can see some of these commands, so that you can also practice them. So now the port at which I disabled the HTTPS access is port, I think it's port 2. Port 3. So this is port 3, right? The HTTP access was disabled on port 3. So I'll say set edit port 3. Edit port 3. Edit port 3 and config system interface edit port 3. So edit port 3. So here you can, without even going to this the GUI, you can set up your your IP addressing and interfaces on the CLI interface using the serial consoles and all that. But what I just want to do here is to enable back the HTTPS access that I disable. So if you look at this, these are the commands. So if you look at port 3 and every other port that I just see set. So under port 3, these are the commands that are already in place under port 3 that are currently working. So I will just say set allow access. This set allow access, ping and all that is what I would include my HTTPS access on, which is set allow access HTTPS then ping. So I say show. Now the HTTPS and pinging are now enabled. So when I go back now, I'll be able to have access to so let me do end. So you have to end that loop. So let me go back to 142. Now I have access back. Let me. Then we have what's it called? Password. So it's very important that you also know how to be able to access the CLI in case the GUI is giving you you're unable to quickly do what you're meant to do on the GUI. So now we set up two interfaces, two ports. The first one is the LAN port, which has to do with which is ports. The LAN port is port 2, and the one port is port 3. So let's label them so that we can give them alias LAN or internal network. Internal network. So which is the LAN as well. Click OK. Then we have the port 3 as we can give it 1. 1 means one area network, and it also indicates your ISP port that you've connected your ISP on. So we have internet network and we have one network. So with that alias, you can label each of those ports for easy readability of and all that. Then another thing is setting up your DNS. You can decide to use the default DNS, and you can specify a DNS server. So if you have an environment that has an internal DNS server that's working well, you can include it here, and you can give it a name. The local DNS name can also be given here to the Fortigate so that you can be able to recognize it very well. Then the next thing you want to do is static route. Static route ensures that both your Fortigate device and the device you're connecting to the Fortigate device have access to internet. If you don't set up this static route, Fortigate will not have access to the internet, regardless of number of ISP connections that you put in. So the static route has to be in place. And setting up the static route, we know the default route is always to the destination of 0.0.0/0.0.0. So we have gateway as 10.192.168.100.1. Then the interface that is connected to the one interface is port 3. So this will be selected in this interface bar. So you select port 3 because that's your ISP that you just configured now. And you can define your administrative distance depending on how you want it and ensure the status is enabled. Once that is done, the device, the Fortigate itself should have access to the internet, and you have to confirm before anything else on that you're configuring, before anything can have access to the internet or your users can have access to the internet. Fortigate must first have access to the internet, and you can confirm by just clicking on the CLI. So the Fortigate has an inbuilt CLI dashboard that inbuilt the CLI bar that you can bring up instead of using maybe PuTTY or any other external software package. So you can use this internal to bring up the CLI, and using the command execute ping. Execute ping is to confirm the reachability to the IP addresses you are trying to have access to. So this shows that the Fortigate device have access to the internet. If I disable, let me go back to this internet. Let me see. So if you look at this, let me delete this and let me check again. So if you delete this, let me delete this. So now if you check, let's check again, execute ping it. So Fortigate does not have access to the internet. So the first thing you need to do, you need to be able to configure the default route so that Fortigate can have access to the internet, and so that when you're doing your registration, you are registering the device on the Fortigate on the Fortinet portal. It should be able to sync with the portal to sync your licenses. If you have maybe UTM license that like antivirus, for the security profiles and all that, it will be able to sync it with the internet accessibility. So using checking this in again now, we have access to the internet now. Then the next thing you want to do after this is set up is to register the device. A new Fortigate device needs to be registered, and we have and you can see there is a site known as Fortinet support site, which has to do with support.fortinet.com. On support.fortinet.com, you need to open, and you need to either open if the organizations you're working for does not have an existing account. If you don't have an existing account with support.fortinet.com, they need to open a new one. We can create a new account. After creating a new account, you can now be able to register that device. But if there's an existing account, you can just use the existing account to register that device and all that. I've done a series of video on registering Fortigate device, initial configurations and all that. So registering Fortigate device is just very simple. Log into the support site. There are two ways to it. If the Fortigate device is purchased with the license bundle to be together, so that means that you have to just copy the serial number of the Fortigate device and use it to register. You can see register now. Use it to register it here on this site. Then you follow the prompt and you're able to register that, and the support site is able to sync with the Fortigate and give you all of that thing. But if it's a new device that the license were bought differently from the Fortigate device, you will receive a PDF file that has registration code on it. So it's the registration code that you will now paste here, and after pasting here, you would also and registering it, the support site would be, because your account is linked here. So because your account is linked here, if you go to no, let's go back. If you go to, because the account is linked here, so you can easily sync that license with the Fortigate device, and you have your license active on the device. So is either you use the registration code or use the serial number to register, and once that is registered, you see everything on this license page green. That means that your Fortigate device has a capability to scan for viruses. It has the capability to do web filtering, filter traffics, and all that. So I'll just touch base on policing and objects, then security profiles before I open up the space for questions. So Fortigate device has operate in two modes. It can operate in two modes. Will I say mode? We have the profiling mode, security profiles, whereby you need to, before you can set up a firewall policy, talking about firewall policy, Fortigate device will not permit any traffic to flow in or out without having a firewall policy in place. So that means by default, there is an implicit deny policy that is in place. That means that everything is blocked. So you now need to start developing your firewall policy based on what you want to allow to have access, maybe to the internet or to another network that you've created and all that. So that's what the firewall policy is all about. But there are two ways that you can also implement security in your firewall policy, because without a firewall policy, you can't implement security. So there are two security modes that works on Fortigate. There is a profile-based profile-based mode, and there is a policy-based mode, which means that you have to, for each of these security profiles, you have to set up the profiles for them, then now apply it in your firewall policy. So that means that if you want to do a level of maybe antivirus scanning, web filtering, for some users in your organizations and all that, or DNS filtering, you have to set them up and and name them. Then when you are now applying, setting up your firewall policy, you can now apply them in the firewall policies. That's for profile-based mode of operation. The policy-based mode doesn't work like that. Policy-based mode just means that you can just set up your firewall policies, and in the firewall policies, you can now start, setting up your securities, ETMs based on antivirus, web filtering, and all that. But in most of the deployment I've seen, and a couple of in across enterprises and all that, I've seen that the profile-based mode is much more deployed than for the policy-based mode. So talking about this now, so looking at antivirus, web filter, DNS, and all that. Antivirus means that you want to, on a network level, you want to be able to scan files, scan data traffic as they are transversing over the network. Then you're going to be able to just set them up, create that profile based on what you want to scan, if based on the protocols and all that you want to scan and all that. Then you have antivirus scan, whether you want to monitor or block. You set up the profiles, and after setting up the profiles, it's only applicable. It will only work when you now include it in the policy that you are going to set up, which I'm going to talk about. So we have antivirus set up, the profile. You can name it class 1. So looking at antivirus, there are other features as well that you can also enable under antivirus profile. You can enable inspection for FortiSandbox, that has to do with ransomware mitigation and advanced threat protections and all that. You can also enable quarantine to quarantine any infected host or clients on the network and all that. Just set up the profile, then you click OK. So once you set up the profile, this profile means that this has been set up and it has been named, but it's not in use. If you look at this reference, under this reference, you see reference as 0. That means that this particular profile is not currently in use because it's in 0. If you look at default, you see that this particular profile is in used in 2 places. And you can, when you click on that 2, it will show you where that profile is being used, whether in a firewall policy. So you see it's being used in a firewall policy 1 and policy 2, which we are going to use. So web filtering, coming to web filtering means that there are some, Fortigate is integrated with Fortigate Lab, which is the threat intelligence service of Fortinet, and there are different categories of websites that they've been able to categorize different websites that falls in. So if someone creates a website now, it will fall into one category. You understand? Your gambling sites like Bet9ja and all that are categorized in a they have a category. You understand? So the mining sites, crypto mining sites also have a category. So you can see each of these categories under the pre-configured filters, Fortigate category-based filter. So based on this, you can decide which sites you either want to block based on this profile. You can say this profile as, okay, block all unproductive sites. So based on this, you want to come to this category and say, okay, based on what I want to achieve, which of these sites do I want to block? Do I want to allow a website that is categorized as drug abuse for my users to have access in? This web filter is just defining users' accessibility online. You understand? So what site do you want them to have access to? What sites do you want to block? You understand? So these are the things you want to put in place. So you can also say, okay, let me monitor them and all that. So when you go through each of these categories, you can either block, let's see, you can either allow, monitor, block, warn, or authenticate. Authentication means that you want to allow the site, but you want to be able to know who is going to that site. They have to authenticate. Like, you want to ensure that user that wants to maybe visit that kind of category of site is able to you're able to know that this is the kind of person he is, and you will be able to authenticate, and you give him maybe some minutes to be able to have access to that site, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And after 20 minutes has elapsed, or the time you've set has elapsed, he would not be able to have access to the site again until he authenticates again. So all these features give you the action to block, monitor, based on the site. So after you've defined all these things in this place, you've blocked, okay, discrimination, let's block, okay, set it to block. Nudity and physique, I don't want to warn them, I want to block them. Gambling, I want to block that site, I don't want anybody to have access to it. Then you can also allow user override. This is an advanced feature which I'm going to talk about next time that we meet. So we have block URL, invalid URLs. You can block invalid URLs in this profile, URL filtering. So you can also, if most of the sites you've blocked here, maybe this category, let's take a category, for example, let's say sports. Let's say you block the category of sports. Any website that's categorized as sports is being blocked, you get. But you also just want to allow one site in that category. You can create a URL filter and allow, let's say, based on simple type of expression or regular expression or wildcard. Let's say live score. Let's say www.livescore.com. So you can allow this website in that category of sports. So that means that this URL filtering would take more priority, than this. So every other site within this category will be blocked except the www.livescore.com and all that. Then we have every other thing. You can also send a block malicious URL that is discovered by FortiSandbox. You can have every other thing set up another. Once this is set up, you will see that this has been named and it has been configured, but is not yet in use. It only function when you apply it in the firewall policy. So let's say you've defined everything in the security profiles, maybe application control and every other profiles have been set up, and now is the time for you to apply them in your firewall policy. So let's create a new firewall policy for our users. So we have different components under these firewall policies that you need to put into consideration for for accuracy and all that. So incoming interface means that where is the traffic coming from? So the traffic, what we want to set is internet access. Let's say internet access users, which means is LAN to WAN. So it means from local area network to the internet. That's the purpose of the policy we want to create. So we have incoming interface. So where is the traffic coming from? The traffic is definitely coming from internal network, which is port 2. Then outgoing network is going to the internet. So it will use the one port, which is the port 3, as what? As the gateway. Then source and destination means that, okay, looking at source and destination, we have different tabs for that. So for instance, you want to define who the source in terms of address, whether is so don't forget that each of these interface, like I mentioned, is a network. You get they serve as a gateway to that network. So let's say 192.168.111/24. Means that we have up to 254 or 55 devices in this network. You get. So that means that if I set all, that means that all the devices within this network they are the one that will have access to be able to use this particular policy. You get. And you can also say, okay, you want to define an address alone, maybe your PC or your a range of network. So you can create an address within that subnet. So let's say 192. Let's say you can say, okay, let's give it a range of okay, let's say a particular device you want to build this policy for. You can say, okay, BIOS PC, then what type of address is it? Is it a subnet? Is it an IP range? Is it a QDN, fully qualified domain, geographic dynamic, and all that? Is IP address. So you can say 192.168.11. Maybe 23/32/32 has to do with that particular IP address that that particular device or host that want to give access to. Then you can select your source. So you can select your. So once you select this, it means that only this IP address will be using this policy and will be the only one that have access to the internet. All means that all the IP addresses under this network will have access to the internet and all that. So if you have maybe an LDAP server, AD server in your environment, and you're able to integrate it with Fortigate, you can also set up source as users using LDAP or local. You can set up local users name and assign source to them and all that. If you set that up, you can select that, and that will be a second. So that will be a second consideration for for Fortigate to choose who is going to the internet. So the first one is that everybody have an access to the internet. Then the second one is that, okay, though everybody should be able to have access to the internet, we are considering the second criteria based on user, which means that only users within maybe this group or this particular user alone that is able to authenticate will have access to the internet. So this source and destination also matters in setting up a firewall policy. So let's just make it simple and just leave it as all. Then you come to destination. On that destination, I can decide if you say all means that if you check this all is 0.0.0, that means that is internet traffic. So you can also define some specific maybe destination based on DNS, internet services and all that. That means that any traffic coming from this network will go to this destination and all that. So for simplicity's sake, let's leave it as all. So under schedule, you can schedule the time in which this policy should be active. You can create a schedule, maybe one-time schedule, recurring schedule. Then you can say maybe Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday to Thursday. So based on the schedule you set up here, that's when that we have that functionality. Then let's leave it as always. Then we have services. Services, you can leave it as all. You can also define the services you want, maybe HTTPS or HTTP. So we leave it as all. So action, this action determines whether the traffic will be processed or not. If you select deny, that means this whole policy will not be processed. If you select accept, that means this policy will be accepted and it will be processed. So we need to also enable NAT. Configuring NAT is quite very simple on using Fortigate device. You can either use outgoing interface as address as your gateway. So using outgoing interface as gateway means that this particular interface will be used as your NAT, for your internet, for your internal users. Then, or you can also define IP pool for NAT. If you have a lot of pools, a lot of public IP address that you can use for that, you can set up the pool and all that. Then now here is please, are you all listening? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear you, sir.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So now this is where the security aspect of the policy you're setting up will come in place. So you see all the policies here, which is security profiles that we set up the other time, they won't have any form of trigger, or they won't be functional. Yeah, they won't be functional until you apply them in a firewall policy, because of the profile, profile-based policy that we're implementing. So now we set up a profile for antivirus. We can select it here, class 1. So don't forget we set up a class 1 profile here, class 1 profile. That means that any device or host using this particular policy, to navigate would this antivirus profile will scan it and implement that what we've done. Then we have the web filtering profile as well. We select the block all unproductive sites. We didn't set up DNS, but the same concept applies to all DNS filtering. If you set up a DNS filtering, or you can also apply it here, application control and block high risk applications, IPS, you can apply them. The important aspect of this is just to ensure that as you set up these security profiles on this tab, you're also able to apply them in the firewall policy and they're able to take effect. Then after that, you want to also allow log each connection, you want to have logs for your traffic. We want to know what is happening with the policy, most especially in your environment. So I always advise not just to select security event alone, because if you select security event alone, the logs you have will be based on all whether there's a virus on the in the traffic, or on a host, or on an endpoint, or maybe a user is visiting a website that is not meant to visit, and Fortinet has blocked it. Those are the kind of events and logs that you will get if it's only security event that you have. So if you have all sessions, it will include everything that you've set up here will be included. So you know the source and destination of the user, and you know whether a security profile has been applied or has been triggered in that regard. Then after that, you want to ensure that your policy is enabled. So then you click OK. So in clicking OK, you can have multiple policies, multiple rules, depending on what you want to achieve. But the way firewalls generally operate is a top-down model. Is in a top-down model, which means that so if a firewall is checking a packet, or is checking is trying to enforce a policy, it will check from the top policy till it reach down to the bottom. So you want to prioritize you want to be able to prioritize your policy in accordance to what you've configured. So for now, if you look at this, we have almost the same thing at the top, which is okay. We don't have anything here at the top, so this would definitely go as we have. But if you have the same thing at the top as we have here, based on maybe ports, based on source and destination, based on incoming interface and outgoing interface and all that, the top one will take priority before it reaches down. And once the top one takes priority, the one below will not take that priority and all that. Maybe next class I'll have different policies, complex policies, rules, and all that, so that I can use that for a better explanation. So once this is done, you can know. So another thing is that once a policy is functional, you can always see the hit count based on the byte of the policies, how long the policy has been, and the rate at which the bytes accumulate, to know that this policy is functional and all that. So if you have 0 bytes for the next 1 hour and users are not able to browse and all that means that this particular policy is not working, and you need to check it. So you see that on policy 26 gig, which is that if you are over mouse on use, that has been functional and working over a period. So under logs, we have different kind of logs. We have forward logs. We have local traffic logs. We have system events, security events, and all that. So under log traffic, this is where you see most of the traffic that is being passed and how they are being passed. So you can be able to use that to find out what's going on within your environment and all that. So if you click on this, you see a lot of details. You see the source. You see so you see the source NAT, the NAT IP address that we use for converting internal IP address to external IP address, so that we can be able to have access to the internet. Then you see a lot of information that you can be able to know that, okay, maybe there's a fault or there's something you need to put in place and all that. So you see that most of what you have here give you that level of information of what this device is. So for instance, if your LDAP server is connected to the Fortigate device, you will see the name and users are authenticating using their username and password. You see the names of, you have that level of visibility, seeing the names of, the the users connecting and all that. There's a lot to talk about. We can't just complete this in an hour. I just want to try and put them in place so you can have it. So with Fortigate device, you can have VPN, connected. You can have VPN setup both, and this VPN setup on Fortigate is very, very simple using using the IPsec wizard. I think we'll talk about that later. I want to open up the floor for questions and answers so that I can know that guys are following me and I can answer some questions before we go. Does anybody have any question? Sorry, 1 minute. Oh, I didn't mute it. Okay, I have 10 people. Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
We can hear you.
Okay, I said, does anybody have any question? Do you have any question that I need to touch or anything? Because it's past 1 hour that we fit in, and I would like to just bring it to a close that we can maybe continue some other time. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, I can hear you.
So thanks for the training and for the knowledge you've had. When you were discussing about the Fortigate, you said Fortigate can actually act as three things. You said as NAT, transparent, and I couldn't get the last one, sir.
Virtual wire. There's what we call the virtual wire connection mode. So, for instance, you don't want maybe there's an existing network in an environment, and you don't want to interrupt the network, to start changing things and all that. You can connect Fortigate device as virtual wire to that existing network, and Fortigate will take a copy of those traffic and run it to itself and be able to implement some of these security features that you've seen here. It's just a mode of operation in an environment. So in an environment whereby, okay, they have a very complicated network and they don't want to touch it, and they just want to integrate a firewall device without, having to, redesign their network and all that. You can use Fortigate as in virtual wire mode. So can use Fortigate in virtual wire mode by just virtual wire peer rather. In virtual wire peer mode, then Fortigate will have that level of information and process and pass traffic in that environment. So we have the NAT mode. So if you look at the dashboard, we have the NAT mode. So you see this is the NAT mode. The second one is this transparent mode. And the third one, that the way you can deploy, like mode of deployment, is virtual wire peer.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, sir.
I don't know whether that is clear. You're welcome.
Yes. No, thank you so much.
Any other question before? I want to so you can go to training.fortinet.com. Let me open. If you have a training.fortinet.com account here, can you signify? So let me just lead you to that site. So go to training.fortinet.com, training.fortinet.com for free self-paced training on Fortigate. You can get a free training, self-paced training there. So when you click on login, just go to public. So you have to sign up. So sign up. Once you sign up, you'll be sent an email to confirm your email and all that. And once that is confirmed, you set up your Yeah, on YouTube. Okay, 1 minute. Let me bring it here. Okay, there's a question on YouTube. Can the VPN be used on other software on the system or only websites? I don't really get that question, Dimeji, on what you're asking. I don't really get the question, but if you can give more explanation to that, can the VPN be used on other software? So VPN, definitely VPN has there are two mode, how will I call it? Two types of VPN. Basically, there's IPsec VPN and there is remote access VPN. IPsec VPN means that there are two sites. You have two sites. You have two sites, site A and site B. So site A and site B wants to connect together so that they can be able to have, they can be able to have access to internal resources across board. You get, that's where IPsec VPN connection comes in. So for that, you need two firewalls or two devices, two devices to be in place. Each device will be at each edge of the locations that you want to connect, and you set up your VPN connections across the two sites. That's IPsec connection. But for remote access VPN means that as I'm working from home and I want to maybe reach my internal applications in maybe in a DC or in an HQ or in an office, and at your home you don't have any appliance or any physical device that you can use to connect another. What you have is your laptop. So on your laptop, what you would install is a software, a VPN client. So a VPN client will be installed on that PC. Then it would have been configured, to be able to connect to the VPN server in your in the DC or in your office, so that you can be able to reach access. But for Fortigate device, you have that's what we know as Fortigate VPN. The Fortigate VPN is that software that you install on your PC to be able to have access to internal resources wherever you want to have access to it. The Fortigate VPN does not work for any other solution. It only works for Fortigate device and all that. So it's not an open VPN client. Is proprietary. If that's the question you're asking. Okay, thank you. So I was trying to show you how to have access to this. So after signing up, just log in. Then once you log in, you see once you log into the device to train.fortinet.com, you see libraries, achievements, and all that. Where you want to go is library. So once you go to library, you see for new starter that you're diving into maybe cybersecurity for the first time and you want to maybe start a career and all that, I would advise that you start with this 1 and 2, with these two certifications, 1 and 2. With this certification, you will see the introduction to the threat landscape, getting started in cybersecurity and all that. All this will put you through when to start. Then you see this one too. This is a Fortigate. This is a Fortigate session that you can also partake in. So come to FCA cybersecurity and click on Fortigate 7.4 operator self-paced. Once you click on that, you can enroll yourself and you can start the self-paced training. It's very sweet, very self-explanatory. It's just 6 hours and you will learn a lot. You are going to learn a lot. Fortigate system firewalls it's not just a 1 hour thing that you would put you through. It's something we are also keep learning. After you're done with this, you can even go to the FCP network security and, look at the Fortigate self-paced immersion, Fortigate immersion self-paced or administrator self-paced, and you can enroll yourself and start once you are done with this, you can, and you're sure of yourself, you can purchase the voucher, which is the exam, and write the exam in maybe in an exam center. Then you become Fortigate certified, and you can also do any of all so because once you have this, once you start this training, you can do any of this training and go and write the exams. So you need to do Fortigate device, Fortigate training, and any other training here. Then once you have those two and you've done maybe the exams and you pass, you will have the certification of a network security engineer. You understand? That means you are now certified. You are now a certified network security engineer based on Fortinet assessment. So that's what I want to show you. You can go to this site and you start your self-paced training, and you are going to learn a lot. I bet you're going to learn a lot. So I think that's what I have for you today. Sorry, I'm not able to cover much on that aspect. I wish I'm able to cover much more than what I covered, but that's what time can afford us to cover. So in case you want me to have a next class, we can have class on maybe a session on maybe SD1. You can look at how Fortigate, how Fortigate, how you can deploy SD1 on Fortigate, how Fortigate handles SD1 deployment or SD1 functionalities and all that. We can look at different areas on Fortigate devices, and that's depending on interest and all that. Out of 56 people that were called, that signed up, I'm only seeing like 10 people, and that's great. That's encouraging. So also a big announcement, we'll be having, I don't want you to miss some of the events we'll be having coming in days to come. Like tomorrow we'll be having let me show you guys. We'll be having an event on Twitter Space. So you'll be having this. We'll be discussing on AI revolution, hackers versus machine. You want to know your place. There's been a buzz around AI, and there's been a lot of questions from people. Will AI replace you? How can you also leverage on AI technology to better advance yourself? Technology is advancing. You also have to to advance and all that. And you're also looking to maybe some possible opportunities that you can also find in the AI revolutions and all that. So I don't want you to miss out on that. That will be tomorrow, which is Saturday, 13th July. That's by 7 p.m. on Twitter Space. Kindly follow us on all social media all social media platform at Cyberpoint. And also, we have a major event coming up. This is going to be a fantastic one. You've never seen this type of event before. So we'll be in this event, we'll be discussing the threat landscape in Nigeria and understanding the risk and taking action. This will be on a general common level for individuals, for enterprises, startups, SMEs and all that. Then we'll also look into emerging technologies and their impact on cybersecurity jobs, and also look at essential skills that you need to have, to be able to leverage your career, in the cybersecurity industry. What are the things you need to do and all that? And possibly we also have some big news coming, but these are the things that we are looking at. And this particular event would happen on Zoom Live, and will happen on YouTube Live and on Zoom. The first 100 people to register for for this event would, have access to the Zoom. We have access to the Zoom room, so that they can have access, they can be able to ask live questions and all that. So kindly follow us on our social media platform and enjoy the rest of your day. If you don't have any questions that needs to be treated. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I'm Babatunde. I've done my FC and FCX already.
Okay.
But I am ready to have the voucher, to at least to buy the voucher for the FCP network security.
Okay.
On Fortigate. The issue is that I'm based on what I read, I have to pass 4 courses, 1 core course and 1 elective.
Okay. The way it has been done now, yeah, if you go ahead and do your Fortigate, that means that it will be registered that you've passed that at first. But to get that, I said you can get network security badge. So there's a badge that is known as, that will be given to you, or certification that will be, like, is a badge that will be given to you, that will be assigned to you as an expert in that area based on what you would do. So to be able to receive that badge, you need to complete a core what's it called, a core course and an optional one. So you can go ahead and do your Fortigate device. Don't stop. Just go ahead and do it. Then whenever you're ready to do the second one, then you can, you can make an attempt and do the second one again. So just go ahead and do it. Then if you are ready to do the second one.
Are you talking about the elective? Are you talking about the elective?
No, do the core. No, go ahead, do the core one. Do the core one first, then you can now plan for the elective later. So yeah,
I should do the Fortigate first.
Yeah, do the Fortigate first. Do the Fortigate first, then you can now look at the elective to to add to it and do later. So you are doing 2 different exams, 2 different courses and 2 different exams, so that you can be able to have that badge and certification as a whole.
Okay.
Yeah.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. In the absence of any other questions, I'd like to bring this to an end. This is more than 1 hour. This is 1 hour, 30 minutes. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Huh? Okay, you have another question upon you.
Okay.
So, thank you, sir, for this moment.
Hello, I'm listening.
Yeah, can you hear me, sir? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you, but there's a bit of noise. Yeah, there's background noise.
Okay. I'll say thank you, sir, for taking this moment out for training us, sir. So I was wondering, on the support training Fortinet webpage, is there a sandbox for us to have hands-on learning on the Fortigate device?
Oh, okay. So Abna, there for now there is no. You have to get a lab. You have to purchase the lab. You have to purchase the lab on Fortigate device. For that, there is no free lab at the moment. So I think what you can do is that if you go to your website, just click. Let me show you something. So if you click just Fortigate demo. So look at this. Can click on Google Fortigate demo, then click on demo. So accept. So we have the username and password is demo, then login. But it's just that you have you only have read only access. You won't have read and write access. So you can use that to just check it out, check the interfaces and all that. So for now, I would find out if there was a time when there was evaluation license that comes with installing Fortigate VM, and it has criteria, it has limitations of maybe one vehicle and any other thing you can do. I'm not sure if it's still functional. I'll try and find out if it's still functional, and I would relate it with the community. So we have a community, a community on Telegram group where we talk and we gist and we share information with ourselves. If you're interested, you can drop the group. I'll drop the link to on the chat so that we can also join us in the community. But you can just use this as a demo. Use it to look at the interfaces, functionalities, and all that. So just click on just type Fortigate demo on Google search bar. Then the first link that comes, click on it and click on demo. Then the username and password is demo, and you have access to what is here. So it's just for you to check, and if I have a better information than this, I'll let you know.
Hello?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Can we have this video, please?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this video will be on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. I'll post it there, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel as well, so that you can get more video content. So my YouTube channel is I've typed it on the chat. So just follow there and you can get access to the content. So I don't know if anybody has any question, and I bring this to a close.
Hello, sir. Yes, sir. So you are saying something about maybe you want to organize another section for SD1, something. So can you give us a specific date or time that you're organizing it? So
not yet. It will be communicated.
Okay, and you said you are going to drop the link.
It will be communicated. Yeah.
You said you are going to drop the link to the community for us,
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's true. Let me. Okay, I'll do that. Let me do that to my phone. Okay, I would send it as a mail. I have your email address. I will send it as a mail, so you can.
All right.
And
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. Yeah. Take care. Have a lovely night rest, everybody.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yes.